mine just so it's done. And then we have a bunch of people in the waiting room. So I'm going to go ahead and, are we ready?
Yeah.
Shall I let them in? All right.
That's in.
Let's go ahead. Admit all. There we go. That's easier. Here we go.
Hi, is it working?
It's working.
Oh, hi,
everybody.
Dulcie.
Hi, Kathy.
Tatiana.
Hello. Is it Kathy? I hear it, but I
Yeah.
can't see you. Of course, I recognize the voice.
I got to turn up my volume. I'm using a headset because I'm at someone else's house.
Oh, that's considerate of you. Okay, we have more people joining.
Hi.
Admit all. Hello, everybody.
Oh, it's coming through my computer. That's why it's not working. There you are.
Roberta.
Lots of people joining right now.
Cool.
Woohoo, that's exciting.
Yeah, a lot of my family from back home is
I love that.
Mark's on TV.
I have support, especially, you're a young astrologer, so we want to support.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, how did you get into astrology? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, 3-4 years ago, I got a book as a gift from a friend.
Yeah.
Shani Nicholas's astrology book. I think it was one of her first ones. I forget what it's called, honestly. But it just introduced me to the discipline more, and then I made it more of a hobby and pastime alongside my studies during university, and it got me through it, and now I'm just doing it more full time. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, once you kind of recognize it as a thing, as a real thing, you're kind of hooked.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How long have you been doing it?
About 3 years.
Mm.
Yeah, just heard about it on a podcast and was like, yeah, that sounds like I knew about it obviously beforehand, but it was explained in a way that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
absolutely.
yeah. So welcome everybody. We are here with Mark Corsetti, and he's going to be giving us a presentation, Astrology and Animation. And we are Astrology Victoria. So we are, we're just the people who love astrology in Victoria. So there's a wide variety of people, whether they're astrologers or just astrology enthusiasts, people wanting to learn a bit more about astrology, a variety of people. So we host Astro Chats once a month where we pick a topic and we just talk about it. And we also host monthly talks where we have a speaker give a presentation on a topic that they are interested in or studying at the time. So feel free to join us on Facebook, or we have an Instagram. We have, what's the other, Meetup?
Yeah.
And so we're just Astrology Victoria BC. So feel free to join and you'll hear about any events that are coming up. And so,
We also
yeah.
YouTube channel. Let's not forget
Oh,
that.
right. Of course, there's YouTube.
Where we post the talks, and we post educational, instructional videos as well, and full moon reports and stuff like that. So feel free.
So if you yourself, you have something that you want to talk about and record, we would be happy to post that. Or if you'd like to be one of our speakers, just let us know. And we can set that up as well. So today we have Mark. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. And we are going to post Mark's Instagram. He has a website as well. And our speakers, we do by donation. So I will also post his email address. So if you'd like to make a donation, you can send it to his email by e-transfer. We generally suggest between $10 to $20. If you can give more, please do, and that makes up for whoever cannot give as much. And yeah, feel free to say hello right now. We'll have a few minutes to just say hello. If you want to say hi to Mark, go for it. And then once we begin the presentation, we'll ask that everyone turn off their microphones, but you can keep your cameras on. So feel free to pipe in. Hello. Hi, Mark. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. Hey, that's my mom.
Hi, Mark's mom.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for
I'm fine,
joining.
thanks.
Family. That's lovely.
So we will have, well, Mark will have time for questions at the end of his presentation, I believe. Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you want to write something in the chat, feel free to do so. If you have any questions, write it in the chat and either Mark or I will check that and we can pass that question along as well.
Elsie, is it okay to write something in the chat just so we remember, but you go ahead and save it till whenever?
Yep.
Yeah, because I like to write
Exactly.
stuff sometimes, but I don't expect you to interrupt what he's saying to, okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
We will not, we'll not interrupt Mark during the presentation, but yeah,
Okay.
if you have a timely question, definitely feel free to ask it. And when we have the chance at the end, we can pass that along as
Great.
well, or you can.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. I'm going to pass the reins to you and we'll let you give your presentation. We look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Dulcie. So yeah, so today's chat is called Astrology in Animation, a journey into animacy, animal spirit, and unconsciousness. So today's talk, I kind of structured in certain sections. So first I'll outline just a personal background, my personal experience, why astrology for me, and kind of like why I'm inspired by it. And then I'll go into the theoretical concept of animism. I'll kind of break it down a bit and give detail into why it's also important to me, where I take the concept from and just kind of put my own spin on it, definition wise. And then I have a slide on subconscious and unconscious intuition. And then I'll go into archetypal signatures as it relates to the astrological signs, the 12 Western astrological signs, all in relationship to nature and land and plant life. And then I'll go through some chart examples and I'll break down kind of step by step how I go about reading charts and how I go about being in relationship with the people that I do readings for. And this is related to the concept of animism, but also this idea of unconscious intuition. So yeah, and then the last part is me asking you guys if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, and we can kind of have a dialogue and more of a conversation about maybe things during the talk that you like I clarified. Yeah. So animism. This definition comes from a course I took in school. Wait, I think I missed the slide. Hold on. This is the first slide. So personal background. So I consider myself a beginner and intermediate astrologer. I have 3 to 4 years experience studying, reading texts, listening to podcasts, being engaged with online astrological communities, especially through Astrology University. I'm still in the works of kind of figuring out what kind of technique I'd like to offer in my readings. Animism is something that intrigues me, which is why I'm seeking to apply it. My educational background in academia comes from the University of Toronto. I studied physical cultural studies, and this is a subdiscipline of kinesiology. Basically, it's about the body and health, but more from a philosophical and sociological standpoint. So it's attempting to explain how and why it's attempting to explain kind of how we live together in relationship, why we do so in the first place, but all in the lens of health in the body and movement, because it has a kinesiological focus. And it was here where I kind of delved more into philosophy, got interested in certain facets of spirituality, and then transitioning into animism and this concept, which I'll explain in the next few slides. Overall, though, I love teaching. I love educating. I like researching. I did a lot of research work back in my time in university. I graduated this past April, so a year ago, in 2020. And overall, I just like asking questions. I'm naturally curious, and I'd see myself kind of in the lens of a kind of weird philosopher. But yeah, I'm queer. I politically and culturally and socially identify and use this term often. And I grew up Italian and really kind of took a lot of good values from my upbringing here. Communal meals and living, a lot of extended family and support, and lots of good religious customs and things like this. So all this kind of informs now why I'm here today and why I'm giving this talk. Yeah, so the concept of animism, the main focus for today. So this definition, like I was saying before, it has been taken from a course I took in university, and this course was called Experiencing Physical Cultural Studies. And this philosophical concept in this course that I took acknowledges that all living things, whether animate or inanimate, whether they're retaining subjectivities or objectivities, retain a soul or retain spiritual essence. They have life spirit, quote unquote, life spirit. So this laptop that I'm doing this talk on would have some form of life spirit, despite being maybe more of an inanimate kind of figure. The plants outside that I walk by having life spirit. So essentially, and especially language too. Animism is also something that could be equated and kind of equalized to language. So the words that we speak, how we communicate, and how we relate, also having life spirit, a soul kind of energy or soul kind of meaning. I'm no expert in this concept. I'm still learning and still kind of trying to figure out how I would like to use this concept more holistically in my readings. But it is one that has intrigued me and interests me for quite some time now. And yeah, there's many definitions of this concept that many cultures across time periods and histories use. The concept itself is taken from a lot of indigenous peoples and communities from around the world. And so it's applied there in this context too, as many of their languages, many of their indigenous languages, one in particular called Potawatomi, has this idea of animism applied to it, where everything containing anything containing energy has spirit, has energy, and is thereby capitalized. whereas many of the romantic languages, and especially English, many of our capitalizations are equated to things that are like cities or names, pronouns, things that are more created and socially constructed. So this is kind of an example of where this concept could be applied relative to Indigenous peoples and communities. I am not Indigenous, but it is something that I do, again, kind of enjoy using for the readings. So this idea of animism kind of translates into then how I intuit people's charts and how I then ascribe a kind of label to them. So using animism as a theoretical starting point, I generally then tap into my subconscious or unconscious intuition to depict the kind of life spirit or animacy of the natal chart I am reading. Oftentimes, this kind of technique, from my own experience, it has always been very immeasurable, unbounded, and kind of more instinctually driven. I see it as very meaningfully chaotic, intangible, again, immeasurable, and kind of immersed in what would be the abstract. So this idea of the abstract for me being something that is not necessarily so conscious. It's just something that I feel and that then comes out and that is then accepted and not necessarily, and that doesn't have to be necessarily proven or validated or verified. So yeah, I think it is I feel like unconscious intuition and this idea of unconscious intuition is a really like interesting process that kind of can help to understand better how we may live with more care consciously. And I'll kind of explain how I apply this in the chart examples that we go through. So in astrology, there are 12 different astrological signs, especially specifically in Western astrology. And I use the idea of animism, there being animacy and life within nature, to ascribe certain characteristics to the signs. And this is kind of beyond their traditional mythologies. I guess I try to expand this definition of what an Aries could be and what they could kind of symbolize, which is traditionally in Western astrology as the ram. And this is derived from certain mythologies in ancient texts, ancient astrological texts. But for my purposes and kind of my interests lie within nature and what's concrete and tangible. And so for Aries, that for me, that's kind of flames, fire, and lava. And I use flames, fires, or fire in general, and lava for Aries in association with its placement in the seasonal cycle. So Aries being the first sign in our zodiac, it being the start of spring. And yeah, so just, I'm just gonna move this way. But yeah, so Aries being the first sign in the zodiac and it being the start of spring. And so when I think of spring and the start of it, I think of something that's quick to ignite. And so in nature, for me, that's flames, fires, and lava. So similarly, the animism of Taurus for me would be bedrock or what would be kind of like solid rock. And in kind of animal form, I associated with herbivorous animals. Gemini, the animism kind of breezes, winds, small and fast birds like hummingbirds and chickadees and woodpeckers. Cancer, the start of summer, so rushing water, so like streams and rivers, and then animal form, crustaceans and shellfish. Leo, I ascribe hot rocks to Leo, and carnivorous animals. Virgo, sand, dust, and insects, something very particular and detailed, quick and flighty. Yet it's reversible as well. Libra, larger birds, smaller breaths, meditations, things that help to align ourselves in balance. Scorpio, I ascribe to ice and glaciers, also deep water. Sagittarius, sparks, embers, scavengers. Sagittarius being a mutable fire sign. Capricorn, I ascribe, because of its earthiness, to mountain life, similar to like the mountain goat in its mythology. I ascribe cactus to it, soil, desert. Cactus kind of means a lot to me with regard to Capricorn, because of its resilience and because of its abilities to withstand its environment, but also still retain kind of the water inside of it. Aquarius is fixed air sign, for me, clouds and skies, but also nocturnal animals, many of who are really good at it, who are really keen on adapting during the night, but also being very good observers of the night, hovering, finding burrows to see all things all at once, to see systems at large. And then Pisces, the 12th sign in the zodiac, immutable water sign, and it's my sign. Oceans, waves, riptides, and seas. Something that's vast, what would be boundless and vast and mysterious in nature. So yeah, all of these signs, I see their animism in these kinds of ways, and there's obviously a plethora of ways to interpret the signs in this kind of animism and in their kind of like plant or geographical or animal kind of spirits. But this is how I see it, and often these are the kind of starting points where this is the starting point for how I then proceed to read people's charts in the combination of signs that they have. So whether somebody's Pisces sun, a Pisces, a Sagittarius moon, or a rising Virgo, I then kind of look at, okay, Pisces, kind of like oceans and big water, and then I look at Sagittarius and sparks and embers, and then Virgo, sand and dust, and holistically intertwine these three signs together. And then from there I can kind of intuit, and using my what I perceive to be my unconscious intuition, a animal spirit, a life spirit. So yeah, what I was just saying about using charts and using charts and using the signs more holistically. These are just some examples that I'll go through now. So this chart is a bucket patterned chart, and it has the moon at its handle. For those that are kind of keen on, for those that are who know kind of the structure of the astrological chart, the moon there is in the 11th house and it's in Taurus. So yeah, this person's chart has an abundance of planets in 2nd and the 3rd house, but also the 11th house. Their sect, the chart sect is tonight, during the night. So the chart is during the night, and as I was saying, it's a bucket shape. So using these kind of characteristics and these chart interpretation techniques, I then kind of break it down into different parts. And so I start off with the moon usually, and then I proceed to the sun and then the rising sign. And I usually just tend to stick with the big three for now, just because I am still just like starting out. So with the person's Taurus moon, I associate moon with land and where somebody often lives. And in this case, I'm talking about the animal spirit that I'm trying to intuit from this chart. I'm not talking about the actual person themselves, but rather just the spirit in animals. So energy that lives in wetter, structured climates, I associate with the Taurus moon. Energy that feels focused, detailed, and serviceable, I ascribe to the Virgo sun. Energy that is seen as compassionate, nurturing, and communal, I then ascribe to the Cancer rising. So taken together, these three things then inform what I intuit to be their animal spirit. And in this particular chart, I ascribe the Asian elephant. This person's reading I did for them a few months ago, and I told them that I did this whole process with them, and I then said, "Hey, like I feel like there's, I feel like kind of elephant energy in your chart. I feel like large mammal kind of like energy in your chart," and they then proceeded to show me their elephant tattoo, and so I think it was this reading that like kind of pinned the like point, like that connected the dots for me of like, okay, like maybe this is something that I could um, practice more with more people and with more readings done, and so that's what I've been doing since then, and it's been really fun, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, again, this person kind of having this elephant energy with their Taurus, kind of having the slowness aspect, with the Virgo having the kind of like detail and the service aspect. And I just have always seen elephants to be very serviceable. Um, in my travels in Southeast Asia, I worked at a few sanctuaries there. And then with the Cancer rising, just having that family-oriented approach, having this kind of nurturing approach, and elephants being, from my experience with them, being very nurturing, very, very family-oriented kinds of animals. The other reason why I chose an Asian elephant for this chart was because of this person's sun sign being in the third house, and the third house being about short-term travel, but also the mind, all things to do with the mind, but more from like on an information level, being able to pick up and ingest a lot of information all at once. And so oftentimes with the third house, I see people who have like good placements there, who have like strong placements there, as people being interested in knowledge. And elephants for me have always been extremely knowledgeable, very wise. And so again, this is why I chose the Asian elephant for this chart. Yeah, so yeah, for the ways in which I kind of like go about my chart interpretation, it focuses on the big three: the sun, the moon, and the rising, and also the chart ruler. And for in this person's case, is the moon sign. And there's also other ways. I think like next steps and future steps for me would be kind of integrating also the other planets in Mercury, Mars, all the way to Pluto, and then kind of specializing, even specifying like further kind of like the kind of animal spirit that could kind of come up with this, because this person also has an abundance of Leo energy too that I didn't mention. In their second house, they have Venus and Mercury also in Leo, and also Jupiter. So again, this could be kind of something that would further maybe specialize or specify like the kind of animal spirit that I would then intuit. And so yeah, for this, but for this specific chart, I just chose to focus on the big three, and for the rest of the chart examples, I do this too. So let's go on to the second one. Cool. So this is another chart, and yeah, so this chart has a Pisces stellium. It's actually my chart. in whole sign houses. That's another thing that I forgot to mention. So each of the houses, like each of the astrological natal charts that you see are in whole sign division. So yeah, so similarly, so Pisces Sun, Pisces Moon, rising Capricorn, and so making this person's chart, the chart ruler being Saturn. Yeah, third house and first house are occupied quite strongly. Third house especially with Pisces. The sect is night. This person was born at 5:05 a.m. I was born at 5:05 a.m. And I was born during a solar eclipse. Basically the middle of the night kind of thing, a lot of darkness when I was born. But yeah, so overall, I kind of I see this energy like myself as from an animal spirit perspective that lives, somebody that lives close to seas and oceans. Energy that feels like water, fusing, blending, and adapting. So the Pisces Sun. And then energy that wishes to be seen as independent, competent, and in control, which is I perceived in the rising Capricorn for myself. So yeah, the animal spirit and the kind of spirit in nature that I intuited for myself and was a sea wolf. So yeah, this kind of dynamic making sense for me personally, just with the earthiness and the kind of the desire to be on land that comes from a wolf, but the sea wolf in particular, somebody who's able to be versatile on both like land and water. And so that's kind of just how I interpreted this chart, my chart. Yeah, I think that's it for that one. And then the last chart that I kind of chose was somebody, this person has a lot in their 12th and first house, and they're in Aquarius cusp in the third decant. So in the third phase of Aquarius season, which is the peak of winter. So Aquarius Sun with Pisces rising and with the Scorpio moon, making with the Pisces rising, this person having their chart ruler be Neptune. So this person was born in the morning, making their sect in the morning. And they occupy, like I was saying before, the 12th and first houses. So I intuited this energy as somebody that lives in intenser, colder climates, so like ice and glacial regions, and I equated this to the moon in being in Scorpio. Scorpio energy often for me has always been having this intensity, but having this having controlled intensity, being emotionally and very, very perceptive, being more cold in delivery or in response in general, and this not being a bad thing or a bad way of delivery, just a form of delivery, which is why then the climate I ascribe to like icing glacial regions. And then furthermore, the energy that this energy also for me feels like a lot of air with this person's sun in Aquarius. So energy that hovers, analyzes, and relates. And then with the rising Pisces, kind of adding in a bit of sensitivity and empathy, and so energy that is seen as sensitive and empathic. So taken together, these characteristics then led me to intuit this person's chart as a snowy owl. And so I, yeah, so in my process of telling people, hey, like, I feel like you're an Asian elephant. I feel like you're a snowy owl, or I feel like you're a butterfly. I kind of use this as like a starting point for then how I then relate to the client, how I relate to the person that I'm reading. Is something that like that speaks to them? And if it does, then we kind of build on it and we talk about it and we kind of um, contextualize it with what's actually going on in this person's life, using it more metaphorically and kind of poetically in this kind of way. And yeah. So these are just some of the examples that I have done, and the process I take. The texts that I took from, that I often take from, and that I have taken from, and especially for this presentation, are listed there. Post-colonial astrology, cosmos and psyche, on the heavenly spheres, astrological aspects, a process-oriented approach, underlands, Pleiadian Earth energy astrology, the hidden life is trees, astrology for the soul. So all these books kind of have informed my practice so far, and I'm currently kind of still in the process of studying and reading more. When it comes to next steps, I intend on studying and learning more about planet and geographical configurations, a bit more in depth and beyond animals. Because right now I'm just focusing on animals and kind of animal spirit and animism. It'd be great to kind of delve more into plants and land geographies to try to kind of intuit from natal charts. Right now it's just animals because it makes the most sense to me, and it's I feel like it's a good starting point. And like I was saying before, with my readings, right now I just focus on the big three when it comes to intuiting the animal spirit or the animism in the chart. And so in the future, it'd be great. Ideally, I'm going to try to integrate the other planetary aspects through from Mercury to Pluto into my depiction of a person's potential land, plant, or geographical spirit. That way, it's a bit more holistic and it's a bit more kind of specific, or perhaps a bit more, and maybe in some contexts, more accurate. In the coming fall, I'll be hopefully pursuing a master's. It's a possibility, it's an option for me right now, but I'm hopefully going to be pursuing a master's in astrology or cosmology at University of Toronto. And until then, yeah, hopefully reading more charts, reading more astrology texts. And so yeah, questions and info are here. So information is there, and I really would like to like open the kind of floor for questions, and I really would like to receive feedback on the kind of the quality of my presentation, and just the if you have any questions about certain slides, I'd love to go back and talk about them more in detail. So yeah, that is it from me, but hopefully you guys have some questions.
That's super interesting. So how did you come up with just envisioning an animal out of all of those? How did that first come to you? And everybody feel free to come onto the cameras and join in the conversation.
Yeah. I for some reason it was just something that I did out of instinct when I like just when I did my first reading with the first chart example. I saw their chart. I saw the planetary aspects, the oppositions and the conjunctions, and where they were placed relative to the houses, the kinds of planets that were there, the themes of the houses. Yeah, so using this technique, using astrological, like standard kind of Western astrological technique, but and using it to get me to then instinctually feeling just this animal that would come up. And so for this one, this one was the most intuitive for me. For some reason, I just immediately was like elephant with the Taurus moon in the 11th house of community, the Virgo sun in the 3rd house of like the mind and intellect, and then the rising Cancer. It was just immediate for me, the idea of an elephant. And when I said, oh, hey, like I feel an elephant in your chart, she pulled down her sleeve and showed me an elephant tattoo. And I just felt like, wow, this is like something maybe that I should kind of do more of. And because then from there, it started up a really interesting conversation. And we talked about elephants for just almost the entire time. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for Mark? Feel free to pipe in.
I do. Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Just wondering, have you done readings for children?
Yeah, no, I haven't done any like one-on-one readings for children. I've worked with kids all my life, and sometimes I just try to ask their birthdays randomly to see what kinds of like energies they have going on. But I haven't done any readings one-on-one with kids, but it'd be something that I'd be interested in the future. It'd be really, really cool, I think.
I guess my question would be also, if you did a reading on a child and then later on in their lives did another reading, would one expect to find similar things or different things with that same person?
Right, like doing a reading during one period of their life and then doing like another reading like 10 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with astrology, it's always important to contextualize the chart into like what's happening in this person's life at the time. And so I usually just go into readings asking more questions than I do saying like, this is what I see and this is what I think you are. I think and so just like simply asking questions and being like, hey, like, what is your relationship like to community, for example? And then have this person answer back in a way, and then from there I can kind of like perhaps give some advice or suggestion based off of what I see in their chart. So yeah, I think like it should always be different every time. Yeah.
Okay. I just find it interesting how the animal aspect comes into it. How I just find that quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
never told us what animal you associate yourself with.
Yeah, like this is my chart. I was talking in the third person, I think, like half the time about myself, but this is my chart. And I've always seen myself as a wolf. And I've typically just like been like, okay, I'm a wolf, kind of just like a plain old like generic wolf, but I applied I resonate with like the sea wolf now more than I have in the past. And so just because with all the water I have, all the places I have in my chart, I think it was appropriate.
There's a indigenous story where the whale, the orca, over time turns into a wolf. So it starts out in the ocean and then it ends up on the land. So they're related.
Wow, yeah, that's really, really lovely. Wow. Huh.
I have just like, it's more like a curiosity to see if it's really about like my own chart, and I have a lot of relationships to spirit animals, and to see if I told you just basically like this without telling you exact like everything, but just my 3 basics, what would you intuitively sense? Because with that big Pisces stellium and your Uranus, you're obviously super in tune with those energetic fields, which is completely the opposite of what I would be.
Right.
No, like if I told you my 3 basics, what would you immediately intuit? And then I can tell what I've experienced I've had, but why not? So I have Sun in Virgo with a stellium. It's a 10th house, Sun in Virgo stellium. So I'm pretty opposite to you in that sense.
Okay, nice.
Virgo with stellium. Then I have Sagittarius rising
Okay,
and Aries moon on the 5th.
okay.
The 5th house, Aries moon, Sagittarius rising, Virgo stellium in the 10th. So
Hmm.
how do you intuit with that? Is like, because like, could you like with the 3 and like the words you use at the beginning, like the fire and the, I'm wondering what you come up with as an animal.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, if I think about it and I take it apart and I think about, okay, like I start with the moon, I start with the land, because the moon is like our physical incarnation. And I think about Aries, I think, okay, it's fire, something hot, something quick, something reactive. And then I'm like, okay, so this person has moon in Aries. Now, kind of how are they like acting and how are they like seeing themselves? With Sun in Virgo, I'm like, okay, something reactive, but yet also very detailed and perhaps kind of um, um, also mutable and also quick too, but more on like an earthy level. And then I think about rising Sagittarius and again adding more mutability, adding more kind of fire. So yeah, I would peg this energy as like kind of a form of I would say like some form of insect, maybe a beetle, or like I don't know, yeah, a beetle or yeah, some sort of like flying insect, like a dragonfly, maybe. Hmm.
Oh, I like dragonfly because it's quick. Uh,
Hmm.
I've always had connection to squirrels.
Okay.
How does that resonate with what you would? Because dragonflies seems like very quick and airy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but how does squirrel sound for you? If I said squirrel, I mean many animals could.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. Like, again, like I'm just intuiting what I feel, and if it resonates with you, then awesome. Then we can have a conversation about it. But I think it's even better to have the other person be like, "Hey, like I feel like I'm a squirrel," and then we have a conversation about that, and then from there we can use your chart to like maybe find other animals or other ways of like understanding what squirrel energy could like manifest as like over time.
Well,
Yeah.
not in my case is because I have had that connection and I understood like, oh yeah, like, and that like as you were describing, it's like, oh yeah, it's quick, it's quick,
Right.
fast. It's kind of, squirrels gather nuts and organize or detailed because they gather and organize, hide nuts.
Yeah.
It's funny because it totally resonates, even though whenever you're doing that examples, it's like, oh yeah, we do have a connection to an animal, certainly, or different. I
Mhm.
have other animals that I have connected to, but now in
Mhm.
the presentation, it made me think. I have Jupiter in Leo, and I thought, oh, I love peacocks,
Oh,
and
okay.
that makes sense with the Jupiter in
Yeah,
Leo. I was like, oh yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense too, that there's
yeah.
energy. So it's very cool because it makes me think like we all certainly could access those archetypes of the animals, and
Mhm.
that's super cool. I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many stories you can just gather from understanding the animal itself and their way of behaving and learning in the world. I didn't mention this in the talk, but um, I firmly believe that like um, we're like star people. We're just visitors to this like earthly plane. That the animals here and the landforms here and the plants here and all of their energy and essence are here to teach us, and we have to humble ourselves in a way as humans because we're not from this place. We're kind of derived from stardust and starry particulate. Yeah.
I bet you could also do this with transits as well. So
Mhm.
you could look at somebody's birth chart, but then you could also learn things about what they're going through or maybe lessons that they are learning based on these transits as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Transits or transiting astrology, I admittedly haven't studied so much. That's kind of the next stage, but yeah, I can definitely see that too. Like using this kind of concept. Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned also like what Lena's question was about, because in progressions you could probably also sense what kind of animal or field you would be in.
Over time, right? As the child grows up, you could also check their progressions and see how.
So if you look at the progressions, you can see, oh, what are they now, right?
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
override the original animal. But
Mhm.
I mean, I do believe that we're connected to spirit animals as well. So it's very interesting to work with something that's less mental and less brainy,
Mhm.
completely intuitive. And I think that's the beauty of astrology, is that it allows for all of that to each person's gonna connect with differently to the information. And I think this technique of having people connect to their spirit animals is pretty cool. It's very unique. It's
Mhm.
very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I really love it. And I don't know, I've always just been, yeah, I've always loved animals um and I find working with like kids like so much in my life, they like they'll just like say they're honest and they'll honestly just like say like random things all the time. And the amount of times I've been told I'm a penguin by like children, it's crazy. Like, and I feel as though it's just like also this is also maybe a potential like spirit animal that I am connected to or whatever. But yeah, like so many kids like just be like, "You're a penguin. You walk like a penguin." Like, like
Think about it, penguins also are in the water and on land.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's similar to the same description of that. It's like you can be in water, super fluid, and then it can go on land as well. It's pretty cool.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Very versatile.
Do you want to
I have
stop
a,
sharing your screen and we can go to the
Oh yeah, sorry.
everywhere
Yeah,
to see each other?
I have a question for you, Mark, if that's okay.
sure, Sam.
So when you like approach prescribing like an animal to people's charts, is it more like biologically informed with like the animal's behavior, or is it how they're like culturally represented in like history or like thematically? Like, what would you say?
Honestly, it's kind of neither in the beginning or initially. Like when I think about the animal, it's just like I think about it and then it comes and then I'm like, okay, does this make sense in relationship to like the person's sun, moon, and rising sign? Um, I um, yeah, like I think my technique varies. I guess I do that sometimes, but then I also think about, well, like with when Tatiana like mentioned, like what do you think like I am with my big three, and in that situation I was like, okay, like Aries moon, fire, cardinal, Virgo sun, okay, mutable earth, rising Sagittarius, mutable fire. So she's a lot of fire, and some earth. So I guess in that situation, I'd be like, okay, like what kind of what kind of animal kind of lives relatively like more on land, but is fiery in temperament. Um, and so because I don't have any like background, like really academic background in like geography or like plant naming and like all this kind of stuff, it really is just like my like intuition guiding me. And 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 yeah, I guess it's again like next steps for me are to kind of study more about like the different kinds of like plant and animal life that exists in the world, and try to like have more names to label the feelings that come up.
Do you ever have like when you picture an animal, do you ever have some that are like very conflicting in how they are like manifesting from what you see from the chart, or you like, oh, I kind of feel like it's this, or maybe I feel like it's more like this, or is it usually pretty clear cut?
Um, Yeah, I guess it's like for now it's like relatively clear cut because I just want to like I just want to trust feeling and I just want to trust what comes up and just kind of put it out there and then see what happens. I guess I don't want to for right now try to I don't ask like prove its validity or I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
So Kathy asks, do you see the animal? Do you mean like intuitively
Mm,
visualizing it? I think that.
yes, I do. I do see the animal. The feeling comes and then I imagine it and then um yeah, yeah.
Do you sometimes see like in your vision an animal that you're not sure what it is, but you actually see it? Because you know when you're kind of psychic or connected to the feel of everything, you might just pop an image. Have you had that experience that you kind of perceive something and you don't know exactly what it is?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Often there it's a mix of maybe shadows, but also just a lot of like geometrical like abstractions. Like it's kind of hard to explain, but I guess it's like a lot of shapes. I guess, and especially when I'm like napping or dreaming, a lot of like maybe a lot of just like more shapes and like kind of I guess like sacred geometries, um, which then lead me to like sometimes a more coherent form of an animal. Um, Other times it's just like fuzziness. Yeah.
And Kathy had previously asked if someone had given you perhaps the same sun, moon, and rising as another person, would it be the same animal or how would that work?
Right. Yeah. So in this case, um, I would probably, yeah, in this case, like if somebody gave me the same sun, moon, and rising, I would look at where the sun, moon, and rising are in the houses, and kind of differentiate. Um, um, I think this is where I'm like kind of going with this kind of technique is like furthering it into okay, like where are these planets located, and where are these luminaries located house-wise? Where is Mercury to Pluto also located, and like what are the planetary aspects in relationship to each other? Like what are these two? Um, right now, I'm just kind of simplifying it in general, like kind of generalizing it with the sun, moon, and rising. Just the sun, moon, and rising. Yeah.
But they'd all be elephants?
Would they all be elephants? I would say with the technique that I currently like kind of am exploring, yes. Do I want to like only have it be elephants kind of like where I'm headed, hopefully, like with the technique that I'm using? No, hopefully I kind of specify things more a bit. And I kind of get to a place where I'm like, okay, like sun, moon, rising, Pisces, Capricorn, two people, where are they located? What are the aspects in relationship to sun, moon, these people as sun, moon, and rising? And then from there be like, okay, this person is an elephant for sure, or like I'm feeling an elephant, but then because of this reason, because of their differences in house placements, this person, um, I feel more as maybe like a water buffalo or something.
Oh, okay. Okay, so there can be differentiation based on what house they're placed in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. With the first chart example, I specifically mentioned like the elephant, and I guess provided more of a rationale because of the person's emphasis with the moon in the 11th in the community, their Cancer rising kind of being about the home, being about family, and then their Virgo sun in the third about the mind. And so from here, I was like, okay, like this makes sense as like an elephant because I know through my experiences working with elephants in Thailand that they have this kind of energy. So this person's example, this person's chart was a lot more kind of I guess like specialized in and kind of where I'm trying to like go because of my experiential knowledge with elephants.
Wow, I'm thinking of the exponential nature of how many animals that would be then.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're dealing with 3 elements and each one of those elements could be in 12 houses, then that's really big. You're going to have to think of a lot of animals.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah. I'm hoping to kind of just have a whole list. I just want to like make a big list and just draw them out, do art.
How does this resonate with you? That's great. Thanks.
No worries. Thanks.
And my other question was, what's the relevance of the shape of the chart? You mentioned it being a bucket chart.
Right.
Does that have is it an important aspect, or you're just acknowledging that it's that shape?
Yeah, so I was, in this case, I was just kind of acknowledging the shape of the chart, acknowledging that the moon as the handle was the focal point, acknowledging that emotions and the physical body were an important and strong aspect of the person's chart. Yeah.
So I'm curious, you said when you had mentioned that this person was an elephant, then you ended up talking about elephants for a while. So
Yeah.
how could that guide your consultation with somebody? What kind of things could you discuss with them?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a plethora of things that we could obviously like go into. But overall, I guess I'm hoping to with the conversation that kind of ensues, I'm hoping that it becomes like a um, just like a story they can hold on to for a rainy day kind of thing. You know, if something speaks to them about an elephant, and maybe they're going through a tough time in the future, or there's like something they feel like off or imbalance within their nature, then maybe thinking about their connection to elephants might kind of assist them in grounding them and being like, hey, like I have this like elephant spirit slash connection, or at least I'm perceiving it and feeling it for myself. And so this gives me meaning. And so in this, experience, maybe this person having a hard time, they can think about the story of the elephant and the story of when like Mark told them they had elephant kind of like spirit, and allowing them to help them through that tough time.
I think there's something pretty cool about using things that are very visual and tangible. It's because when you, like in general, when we do astrological consultations, there's so much information that
Mm-hmm.
a piece that's very simple to hold on to, like you say, it gives you like, oh, I don't remember, I went to an astrologer and he told me like a million things, but I remember this one thing, and that immediate connection can make the person be very aware of their own, like you say, basic energy. Like it's like a little bit like I say my own personal story with animals, like the squirrel. And when I see this, like that could be an option, right? It could be another. It could be the dragon. It could be many, right? But let's say
Mm-hmm.
I'll take my own squirrely thing, and I do think like, oh yeah, if I remember what that's about, I won't forget when I'm getting sidetracked of my own energy. To kind of, that animal helps me guide me back to my greatest gifts, because I do believe that when we have the sun, moon, ascendant does speak about our, like you say, our basics.
Mm-hmm.
This is an energy we came here with for a reason. It's not
Yeah.
for no reason. So when we can relate it to something very tangible, we could even go like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a drawing of that, or make a little pendant and keep it with me, or a tattoo if I don't
Yeah.
would tattoo a squirrel, but
Yeah.
but I do have squirrels everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because that reminds you, like that reminds people, it's like a mirror energy of themselves, reminds you of who you are. And especially when we're trying to be swayed by others, it's like, no, I remember who I am. So that piece of information, even if the person doesn't remember anything else of the reading, can be very powerful. I think it's a very cool thing to explore in any case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's just, yeah, it's a great way to like make therapy, like I think, or like a form of therapy in astrology as like more like, yeah, just like more realistic almost, because it's and more interesting. I don't know. It's more fun to talk about how you think like you're connected to like a squirrel then I don't know, then maybe like be really serious about like certain issues or whatnot, and which is obviously important during certain times, but making light of it sometimes too is good.
I think that's really interesting research that you are beginning. It's
Oh, thanks.
yeah, I haven't seen this before, and
Oh,
it's
great.
kind of a blend of astrology and spirit animals and animals as signs, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm really interested to see where you go with this. And if you do a master's in astrology, you could take this really far. So yeah,
Mhm.
very
Yeah,
cool.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mark, I was
Mark, that would
curious.
be also, sorry.
Oh, I was just curious if you've studied shamanism at all in connection with this.
No, I haven't. I yeah, I know the term, and I know I have a few mutual friends are who are kind of studying and practicing it, but I don't personally have a relationship to shamanism, but it could be
I just
something.
sense the animal aspect of it. There's a connection that intuitively, so it may be something that comes down the road to you, that it's all
Mhm.
connected.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, Mark, too, the previous person was saying to give, when you're doing the reading, to give someone something tangible to remember, like the animal, correct?
Hmm.
And also that really relates to children, because if you ever did readings for kids, or if you did a club with kids, to give them that tangible animal that they could actually relate to, and it would make more sense to them.
Hmm.
It'd be more of a connection for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, kids are really intuitive. Kids are extremely like yeah, into attuned with all of that. And yeah, that definitely could be really helpful for some kids too.
I think
Yeah.
it would make it less abstract for them and more
Mhm.
tangible for them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like being, yeah, language is tricky sometimes. Yeah, especially with kids. Sometimes words don't make sense. They don't make
Mhm.
sense for me anyway. Like
Does anybody else have any other questions? Comments?
If nobody else has any questions, it'd be great to receive maybe feedback about like the delivery of my presentation. I'm always trying to like kind of just like yeah improve or like just like see what other people think about it. Because sometimes I feel maybe I talk too fast. Maybe there's like certain things that could have been said better. But yeah.
Well, I can say something. Because it's I think when we're doing presentations and you're being so unique to you, because you are, and like seeing your chart is like obviously Mercury in Pisces, like I'm Mercury in Virgo. It's like I will be bullet pointed. So it's very cool to be yourself and delivering the information the way you are, which I think it's part of being being an astrologer, right?
Right.
So by honing in that intuitive, I would say like expand more deep
Okay.
into each thing, because
Okay.
your approach is pretty unique. It's not like a Mercury Virgo approach. I will go like ding 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 ding.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like being like this about it, like Mercury Pisces, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Very Piscean. So honing
Yeah.
into that, and giving maybe more images would be a
Okay.
way to expand, because you did mention at the beginning each sign.
Right.
I would have loved to see maybe images of each thing, because the images is part of how you function. You function through image, through sense, through not necessarily through worded language. So maybe in your presentations and in the future, when you're going to refer to these images, like if you use lots of imagery, people can maybe relate more to the colors, to the senses, because that's the way you do it, right?
Mhm.
So if I could give you a suggestion, is use more images for everything, and people might then connect more to that, because of course it seems like you are trying to explain it from how you perceive it, but people might go like, oh, what does he mean, because of course
Yeah.
it's a Piscean being. You're like, well, I see it as geometries, this and that. I understand what that means. I have Neptune in the first, and and
Yeah.
planets in the 12th house, but to use images, graphics might make people more connected to that information in a more clear way. And I think it was Lena who was saying, like, when you do readings and stuff for the kids, and like, you have such a unique way of doing astrology that I think it's very valuable to develop it in your own way. And I would say definitely go the Piscean way all the mile, and the Virgo will say to you, use the Virgo polarity a little bit to make
Mhm.
sure it's I mean, you structure it very well anyways, but if you
Mhm.
expand it more and give more imagery, I think it will be more accessible to people's consciousness. But that's awesome that you're doing this research. I think it's very, very, you're onto something that's very interesting.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
you might end up, like you say, making a whole book, illustrations and examples, and it could be
Mhm.
something like a reference. Like,
Mhm.
it could be a reference book in the future for some astrological people that might not necessarily be mental learners, but more intuitive learners. That could be a beautiful kind of work that you could develop with. I just sense images for
Mhm.
use images, and as much as you
Mhm.
art, communicate
Yeah.
images. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for that feedback. That's really helpful. Thank you.
The piece I saw to expand on that is why. I understood with Taurus where it was the bedrock, and and the fire with Aries. And another thing that people like to do is they like to associate anything you talk about astrology, and probably anything you talk about anything, they want to relate it to themselves.
Yes.
So you caught that with Tatiana. She goes, well, what about me?
Yeah.
So that could also be part of your talk. Is, I'd be happy to, see what animal comes up if there are, a couple of people in the audience who, want to tell me their
Yeah.
placements or whatever. But yeah, I totally agree with Tatiana about the imagery rather than text.
Okay.
If you know your material well enough, you should be able to speak on something without a PowerPoint at all. But Zoom is sort of precluding that, making it really challenging for us.
Right.
So I once took a workshop on doing public speaking, and it was super foreign to me, but they didn't allow us to do PowerPoint. We had to be far more creative. And so there were, plant growing demonstrations. Mine was learning to ride the bus in Kamloops. So I had them all lined up in chairs. But it's tricky to not use the bullet points.
Yeah.
And as Tatiana said, just put your description, put the lava flows and the, whatever you see that relates. That's really cool, though. It's really fun that you're doing this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I do think so. I will, yeah, definitely good for visual learners, but I will advocate for the words. Obviously, it is helpful, maybe to see them both at the same time. If you put the words and the images together, it really solidifies it in the mind and incorporates different learners. But yeah, definitely the written part of your presentation was great. You added the pictures as well. But yeah, it would be cool to see a variety of other images you come up with, because you're clearly good at intuiting those kind of things.
Thank you. Yeah, I was even like, based off your feedbacks, I was thinking about one of the slide with the signs, Aries to Pisces, and the examples. I was even thinking making even those each their own slide. Could have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, because when this gets posted, I would love to look at that slide again and just kind of absorb that information. So yeah, if you could make those individual slides with their own pictures, that would definitely be absorbable.
Cool.
Yeah, and that way we can just edit them in or somehow, and then maybe that's part of getting it more complete, let's say.
Yeah, for this presentation, or if you give it in the future as well.
For a future presentation, because I do believe that there is so it's so interesting, so interesting. Archetypes in general are all very interesting because everything is an archetype. Like you said, animism, it's like everything is. So whether we connect to something, one person's going to connect to an archetype and another to another one, but in general, archetypes cater to collective groups. So whatever that means, if I say, I don't know, if I say elephant, immediately you think of, oh, slow, big, this, solid, right? So it's just archetypal. So,
right.
So in doing more like you also said, imagery with words, it will expand, and then people might read it much more easier.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, if anybody still would like to say something about their three main ones, maybe you could feel discussion about what people feel with their own main ones with respect to your own definitions. If
right.
Try that out. Like if people know their sun, moon, rising, what they think and how you would probably go about it with what they give you. Would you be willing to kind of do that? Because Kathy's kind of is curious about it. So not try it out, because the idea is not, it's like what do we feel, sense, and what perceptions do we have, or what our own perception of our own animal could be. That's an option too. So
yeah.
Would you be open to trying that?
Yeah, sure. If people know their sun, moon, rising, I'd be interested. Yeah.
Dulcie, I'd love to hear it, but you'll have to look mine up because I don't know. I mean, I know my sun sign, and I think my my rising is Gemini, but I don't know where the moon is.
You had Cancer.
I don't know.
Cancer somewhere or other.
I believe you. She keeps track of all of us.
Yeah.
I remember some Capricorn energy too. I just don't remember why. Or some, I don't remember, but I remember some Cancer too, talking about that. But
I remember you saying, yeah, look at all those pictures on the wall. That was the Cancer piece, I guess, is I had the family all on the wall behind me. Yeah.
And if anybody else also knows their, or at least even like, if they could relate to their own maybe sun sign, because even if we don't have the three main, maybe the sun sign gives already a flavor of animal.
Yeah.
Or animals. Well, Kathy, if I were,
I can't find it here, but I can. If you want to tell me your info, do you want to do that?
Sure. It's August 8th, 53, and Winnipeg, and 1:56 a.m.
All right. Winnipeg.
Yeah, because you could have made up a completely wrong animal. Then where would I be?
Yeah.
It's like I say, maybe you perceive yourself also as an animal, like as maybe Mark perceives something, and you have that discussion. You can come up with like, oh, maybe it could be this, it could be that, until you feel, oh, that's the right resonance, that's the right, I totally resonate, or like that animal, right?
I wanted you to be a lizard. I was getting all that heat for you. And so because it was Aries and Sag, right? Aries, Sagittarius. Yeah, and fast moving. So I was seeing you as a lizard.
So I'm going to tell you something.
Dragon or phoenix.
I'm going to tell you something.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to tell you something funny about the lizards. I was just outside and there's lizards in my yard here. And the lizard went by and I was with a friend. And I said like, oh my gosh, I love lizards so much. So you see, there's also a connection. So it's
Well, they're
not,
kind of close to squirrels. You know, it's the same kind of.
it's the same kind of energy. And I love also like the idea of like dragons, like actual dragons, even though they're not like here.
Oh,
I-
Dulcie told you you're going to be a dragon. So there you go.
Exactly. And I had a little toy when I was a child that was a dragon lizard kind of thing. It was plastic. I loved it. So you see, like the energy, even it can be in different animals or different times, the archetype still holds.
Right.
So, you know, so that
Yeah.
could, like the lizard or the dragon, that also holds the same kind of energy. So the energy.
Dragons are a little slower.
Oh, but I imagine a dragon like flying.
Oh, I guess. Oh, that's right. They could be the flying kind.
Oh, yeah. I think of flying dragons. You know?
Kathy,
The dragonfly. Now we've got the dragonfly.
And
Okay, this is
dragon
making
fly.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
it might be the time, Kathy. Something one.
What?
We are-
156. Yeah.
156. AM, PM,
AM.
PM to PM. Winnipeg, Canada, 1953, 0808, 156 AM.
Yeah.
Okay, Gemini rising, Moon, Cancer in the second house, Sun, Leo in the third house.
And rising Gemini. Huh. Well, I mean, Sun in Cancer and Moon in Leo are summer kind of archetypes, and kind of this. Yeah, I feel a lot of there's a lot of heat and kind of warmth and like kind of radiance. So I think of an environment maybe that is situated like this. So somewhere maybe a bit more hot, somewhere a bit more like warmer. With Gemini rising, there being, I guess, mutability, like a lot in the animal's kind of temperament, and quick and witty. I'm thinking of a hyena. I'm thinking of like a hyena that's living in
That's awesome.
in Africa, and that like wit and that like kind of that like quickness of the hyena, but the where it's living though kind of embodied by the sun in Cancer and the moon, or the sun in Leo and the moon in Cancer.
That's
Yeah.
fun. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, Dulcie, what's yours?
Okay, so I am Aries rising, and both Sun and Moon are in the 11th in Aquarius.
Oh, okay, wow.
Uh-oh.
What was the rising again?
Aries.
Aries. Well, basing like, I mean, fixed air, and it's yeah. I'm thinking like I guess I'm not thinking about an animal for this one. I'm thinking about like a thunder cloud, or
Yeah.
yeah.
I love thunderstorms.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I guess,
storm
yeah.
watching?
What's that?
Like storm watching?
But yeah, I love seeing them, hearing them. Edit it. It's exciting.
How about mom? What's mom?
Yeah.
Oh, her sun's in Aries. She has a Cancer moon, and her rising is in Libra.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of like, I mean, it's a bit, I guess it's more obvious because she's got a bunch of giraffes in her house, and I don't know, I feel giraffe, or like an elephant as well. She likes elephants too, so yeah.
What was
That's
the
fun.
Libra rising? Yeah.
The cardinal air, so
Mhm.
I love when you see giraffes at any kind of wildlife park or whatever. When they go into their barn, they have big, huge, tall doors. It's like something you don't think of because you always think of them being outside.
right.
But it's just such an unnatural looking approach.
Mhm. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
great.
They're
That's a great
quirky.
animal.
Yeah.
Did you watch April being born by any chance? Do you remember that one? That was about 5 years ago, I think, maybe longer. But the giraffe being born, oh my God, it was a worldwide event of the mom giving birth to April. I guess she was born in April. But
Oh, yeah, I had
yeah.
no idea. Wow.
Oh, it was awesome.
Oh, nice. Nice.
That's cool.
They must, is the giraffe, the mother giraffe, like standing up for that?
Yeah. Yep.
That'd be a big fall.
Yeah. You'll have to look it up. I'm sure it's online. It was amazing. Everybody was watching this for hours, waiting for this baby to be born.
Does anybody else want their animal included?
Also, I was also thinking of like, well, like you said, like adults is more like a thunderstorm. So it could also be like a weather pattern. Like, for example, you live in a lush, green, warm island, or if you live in the Arctic. So I would see somebody that's a very Capricornian, maybe Scorpionic Capricornian, like living more like in Siberia or something like that. I don't know. You could also see, like, I sometimes tell people, like, astrology, if you have a unique blueprint, is like having a weather pattern. It's like living in weather kind.
Yeah, cosmic weather. Yeah.
If you're a kind of weather, that means you have to prepare for that weather.
Yeah.
So that could be also very interesting to see how this concept of the animism just is like, well, if you were a location, what would that location look like?
Yes. Yeah.
That would be so interesting to see who else wants to test either animal or weather pattern or
yeah.
The concept could be expanded to so many.
Many things. It's animism, like you said, is you know.
Yeah, it's really anything. Yeah, and anything that holds a soul or that is like part of a soul kind of project, I guess. Yeah, and there's no right way to like do this kind of thing. It's always just in the moment, or like, I guess, like, yeah, just when you're with the person, it's, you kind of like, you feel their energy and they feel yours, and yeah, just kind of play it through that.
I think we have we don't take the time to experience other entities' energy. I experienced that just today, actually, where we were climbing this hillside and I had to hold the tree to get back down, and it was like, oh, the bark is so rough, and that was a new experience for me. I hadn't really, I've used a tree to support myself as I climbed down something before, but it was being super conscious of the structure of the bark. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, really nice.
Mindfulness in the moment, just experiencing that.
Besides not wanting to fall.
In addition to that, hopefully.
Exactly. Well, this has been really good. Thank you.
Yeah, really cool, Mark. That was
fun.
Thank you.
Something I've never thought about before. So I'm really happy that you shared this with us, and I'll be looking.
Are you in Victoria too, Mark?
Yeah, right now I'm living in Victoria. I've been here since October. I'm originally from Ontario. I live, my family and everybody else is back home in a town called Whitby. It's very close to Toronto. Yeah. Thank you so much for this opportunity, though. I really am grateful, and it's nice to get my words and my weird theories out there, and just
not weird.
I mean, it is weird. It's great though. It's like weird and fun.
No, because there's totem animals for the indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
And I wondered, actually, how so many indigenous people are given animal names or whatever at birth.
Yes.
And I wondered how frequently, as you go through your career with this or fulfill your passion, I wonder how frequently it'll come up for you that you connect with that. And my experience was being I was in some kind of intuitive circle thing, and we were supposed to just feel the energy of the person beside us, and and then we were to visualize what animal we saw. And with him, I said, yeah, it's super weird, I'm just going to say it, but I see a lion looking at me. His name meant the lion in whatever his nationality was. I don't remember now, but he was just blown away that, you know, I caught that. And I felt weird. It's like, did I really see that? But I think we have those essence about us. So I don't
Yeah,
know. It was just a neat experience. And
yeah.
that's probably what you're doing, is you are, you know, that there's an intuitive and a psychic and all kinds of stuff going on there.
Yeah, definitely. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. And I think it's very like body oriented though. Like, you know, like this psychic kind of nature, and like, because I feel as if our energies, like, they come into these bodies, and these bodies are from here. Our bodies are from here materially and corporeally, but our energies and our like life spirits, as I was like saying before, I've always felt it like as we're visitors, and that we're coming into this like physical incarnation
Right.
as like kind of people who don't know why we're here, but that we have the knowledge encoded into our bodies, and that if we tap into it, that we can learn a lot about like ourselves and our connection to the world around us. Yeah,
Super important.
yeah.
I'd like to add a little like side note to precisely what's going on right now, and as we evolve, right? And even with astrology, like we're in this like Pisces season with Jupiter in Pisces,
Right.
and it's going to conjunct Neptune, and we have the South Node conjunct the South Node. We've been having the South Node in Sagittarius, and we're going to have
Yeah,
that
eclipse.
and and it's very interesting that now these concepts that are so intangible are being brought, and this is why things like what you're proposing, you know, it's like it's no longer the dogmas that we have to follow these that way, but it's like all these like open up, like North Node in Gemini, like let's open up to other ways of receiving information, that it's not the traditional way. And people like you, for instance, and you have a third house stellium there, it's like you're bringing information in a different way, and some people will connect to it and understand that, like, if we can just connect vibrationally and through sensing, and then connecting to something, that's also a way of getting information, not just the way we're taught in scriptures or the way by the book, you know.
Yeah.
And I think this talk is pretty amazing that is happening right now with this Piscean energy, and it's very big, and people are going to be able to connect to those ideas, and that's why I encourage you to keep being your Piscean self, and bring it, because some people might not connect with that, maybe
Yeah.
not the way they do, but many others will. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so important, I believe, to keep being ourselves in our unique gift. And yours is clearly a gift of being in this like the sensing, and here it is, you know, and having that flowy discussion. Even I can, right? And you know, you're very Uranian, you know, forward, you know, you're already ahead of the curve, kind of. I mean, by seeing your chart, it's like, of course, you know, he's like from that kind of future stars, whatever, and bringing this into form here. And this is, I'm just really thankful that you're here, and that you're also young, and also putting yourself out there, and that you reached out to us because you wanted to give this information. And I think this is also very important. What's happening right now is that we all have gifts, and encourage you to keep developing yours, and kind of excited to see what you come up with.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited too. And I'm so grateful. This has been so amazing. Honestly, I didn't really know what to expect, and I've never done a presentation like this before. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing what you have so far. And we would definitely love to have you on again as you continue all of this.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, I've posted information in the chat. Definitely check out Mark's website and Instagram, and we'll post this on YouTube if you're up for it, and we'll add all of the information there as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, feel free to join Astrology Victoria, and we'll we'll keep you posted about other events coming up, and next time Mark speaks as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Yay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for
Thanks.
joining, everybody. See you next time. Thanks, Mark.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you.